was standing out on my front porch and watched the snow plow truck go by and just wipe my mailbox out, and I'd like a new black plastic one.
Got it.
You're not getting one from Purdue, but if you want an IU box.
Oh, sure. This goes back a little over 10 years. In December of '02, the county commissioners vacated a portion of County Road 700 East between US 30 and the railroad tracks. The reason for that was because SDI wanted to put in some spurs, and based on what I'm reading from the commissioner minutes back in December of '02, testimony from their attorney, SDI's attorney, was that NDOT wouldn't allow these spurs to be put in because of safety reasons without there being some kind of vacation, is what I'm gathering. The county vacated basically from 30 to the railroad tracks, not completely, but basically. And so like 2 Thursdays ago, I'm gonna say, a guy from NDOT called me to verify that had taken place, that there was a vacation. I said, yes, there was. And then about last Thursday, a different guy from NDOT called me. And the reason that they want this all came about is because NDOT, for one, controls all railroad crossings, even on county roads, including all the safety equipment, except for, I believe, pavement markings. And they want to take that crossing equipment and put it somewhere where it will be used. I did get a concurring email from a guy at Rail America that they agreed to do whatever their part is in this. Last week I got a call from a different guy at NDOT that says for this to happen, we as an NDOT need to have these 3 things: a Title 36 vacation, which I have that, the ordinance to vacate, a crossing removal petition, which would come presumably from us, and something to be done with the south approach. He says at a minimum you need to put barricades up, or there should be a cul-de-sac or something, and I don't know how the guys, if they're even plowing that section of road, or if once they get there how they're turning around. I don't know how that's working. But I did, after I talked with you this morning, Tom, I did get a hold of one of the guys at SDI, and he indicated that they have a locked gate on the north side of the tracks, and that they almost never use that crossing. And he indicated they would not have a problem with removing those crossing arms and things, but NDOT's not going to do it until, for one, after I went this morning and pulled the ordinance and the minutes from the commissioners' meetings, the vacation actually stops 10 feet north of the north right-of-way line. And from what I can gather, it was kind of a difficult thing in dealing with the railroad at the time. And so by stopping 10 feet short of the right-of-way, they weren't technically adjoining landowners. And I mean, I've heard that on a number of other instances where, because their corporate office is, Philadelphia or wherever, and difficult to deal with. So at the time, it seemed like the right thing to do. There was a question raised by Randy Knock, the highway supervisor at the time, of who was going to maintain everything south of the tracks as far as the bridge. There's a bridge just south of the tracks that is relatively new. Any other culverts, side ditches, etc. Because Hyler Road is, I don't know, half-mile plus or minus south of there. There's no other homes between Hyler and the railroad. So, giving you a real brief history of what I at least think I know. And that NDOT is getting the process, wanting to get the process started of getting things cleaned up, whatever needs to be, so that they can use that equipment. They're talking about like $50,000 or $60,000 worth of equipment that they could use somewhere else where it would actually get some use. So, I guess, you know, this is kind of just like say, just come up these additional requirements last Thursday. I'll continue to work with NDOT. If there's I don't know if they have a boilerplate crossing removal petition that we could use versus paying someone to write a formal petition. And then the other issue is the south approach and what we do with that. I know there was discussion back in '02 about just vacating all the way to Hyler Road because there are no more other homes. SDI, I don't know about back then, currently SDI owns the entire stretch from Hyler to the railroad on the east side. And Mike McCoy, I think there's two Mike McCoys, owns on the west side. So technically, if it were to be vacated, that would get split. And do we need to have a cul-de-sac? NDOT saying we got to at least have barricades. So there's some other things that are going to have to be dealt with. But I just wanted to give you a report on what's coming in from them and why, and a little of the history, and see if there's any questions or concerns or.
Well, it sounds like we have to vacate from that north part to the south, otherwise we've got liability at that crossing.
Well, yeah.
Even if they take that out, that just leaves the liability on the county.
Well, and I don't think they will take it out unless we do these three things, which we've already got. Well, we have a Title 36 vacation, our ordinance, but it really doesn't even go to the north right away. It's 10 feet shy, so maybe that needs to be cleaned up. And then they're going to want to see something on the south side too, that we at least. I don't have any specifics because this is new for me, and it's kind of the reason I'm here is to get some discussion started on.
Well, I think regardless of what you come up with, the county doesn't want any liability on that railroad track.
Sure. Now, I believe that, when SDI was under construction, they were hauling in stone, concrete, asphalt, or whatever, and at least, again, what I think I know is they were using that as a haul road. And we wanted them to use 700 because it was a gravel road, and we didn't want them tearing up 800 East, which we had just spent a bunch of money to improve, at least a portion of. So, but in talking to this guy today, or he actually left me a message returning my call, he says they very rarely use that crossing. I know there are other private railroad crossings. I've been across one down by South Whitley. It's just a private railroad crossing. There's no, I don't even think they even have a crossbar. Maybe there's a crossbar, but not any kind of signal flashers or anything.
I think my concern on this is when you talk about vacation of anything, all I can think of is attorney fees, and I'm not sure what your thought is on that, or Don, but my first question is, would SDI be willing to be involved in that vacation with the attorney fees, since they're going to be the ones that is going to profit or benefit from that?
Doesn't hurt to ask.
That's
Sure.
How do they vacate that crossing?
because that land is going to be vacated, and they'll take over that land, or half of that land.
Well, depending on what
Or could.
is vacated, you know, to the south. I mean, there is a bridge just south of the right of way. If, like NDOT is saying, typically there will be a cul-de-sac, and in fact, coming from the north, SDI did install a cul-de-sac at their expense when we vacated the north part. You know, if we just go up, you know, close to the railroad tracks and vacate it, then in theory, there should be a cul-de-sac for, you know, somebody that's on the wrong road, plow trucks, you know, whatever, but I don't know that there's room between that bridge and the railroad to put a cul-de-sac in.
Will the plow truck go up that road? If so, why?
Michael?
Yes, we had a case like this in court down south. It was the exact same thing. And a bridge was taken out, and we decided to keep the road. And yeah, there had to be a cul-de-sac, and then we put up guardrail, and then had a mound behind it actually, you know, to really keep somebody out. And a young person who was drinking decided to go down this dead-end road. We kept it because farmers had to get in and farm on each side, plus we got paid for the road. We weren't putting that much material cost back into the road, but you're still getting paid maybe $2,500 per mile for the road or something like that. But this young person went down there at night and saw some lights on the other side, and he actually somehow got around the guardrail, around the hill it was built, and drove off the bridge and into the water, and then sued the county. And he'd been drinking beer and admitted to it. But yeah, those things, it all comes back, you know, where if you're gonna, it's better to abandon the road way back, but if you're gonna keep it because you're gonna get mileage out of the road, or money for the mileage out of the road, then you've gotta do a pretty good job with your cul-de-sac and your guardrail or whatever you're putting there to make sure nobody goes forward.
Well, it's not that long distance from the railroad track to Highland Road. My first thinking is that Brandon and I can remember faintly about this. And the reason we were back 10 feet from the north, we could not get a response from the railroad company of what we had to do or what SDI. Mr. Giaquina represented SDI, and we had Mr. Gage as our attorney, and they couldn't wiggle the railroad to give us any indication that was more or less passed up or down the line. So we decided 10 feet, close it off, and SDI, who owns both parts now, and that's where the big beams and things you see over there being loaded, and their railroad spur goes up to their someplace. But I would be in favor of checking out to see what we would have to do to legitimately close the south half of that road. If SDI ain't gonna use it, it seems to me it's more of a liability, even though we might get $1,200–1,300 back. You'll spend that much on 10 minutes on the phone with an attorney.
Well, this is the ordinance, so it's not like it's a 10-page ordinance to actually do the vacating. You have to have a public hearing, notify all the joiners.
Do your best, we gotta go.
So, you know, I'd be willing to, you know, work on some of that legwork as far as that goes. I think we're kind of, you talk about liability, the situation as it is right now would probably open to more liability than if we would vacate it, but I mean, I don't know that, but.
I'm just a lot like Tom. If we're gonna vacate that dude, let's go back to Highland Road and let's put guardrail across that road.
Right.
Say, there you go. And if farmers need to get in those fields, I'm sure they can find a way off to Hyler or.
Well, there's
something.
from the railroad down to Hyler, which Hyler crosses 700, there's basically two 80s. SDI owns the east 80, McCoy owns the west 80. So they would at least have access off of Hyler.
That's what I'm saying. As long as they can get off of Hyler, I don't think we need to give them a 700 access and we just vacate it and say, that's it, the road's done. And I understand, Michael, we're losing a little money. Every time you take a road out of the plan, you're gonna lose a little money, but in the long run, I think it's a better solution.
And it costs quite a bit to put a cul-de-sac in there, cause there's wetlands involved in that too, I
Yeah,
believe
right,
in there,
yes.
so you know what
There
you're
is.
gonna get when you wanna deal with the DNR on wetlands, so.
All right, well, I'll keep working with NDOT.
Okay.
Like I say, try and get, see if they have a boilerplate crossing removal petition.
Is our state so broke that they can't spend 60,000 on a blinking red light?
Well,
We're getting a
don't
new governor.
know.
Maybe he'll get
I
it
think,
straightened
I
out.
think our state's doing pretty well compared to some others. but-
All right.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, how about a recess for 5 minutes?
Okay.